We must win this Senate seat. Bernie, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to talk to you. We're just talking to Mike Rogers, who's running for Senate in Michigan. I think, now this is assuming we're operating in a sane world, which is a big assumption, but I would think Kamala being the presidential nominee now and maybe Josh Shapiro as the VP, I think helps him in Michigan because they're so bad on the auto industry. But again, that's a sane world. How does Kamala jumping in the race affect Ohio?
Well, first of all, we have hometown guy JD Vance on the ticket, so that makes a huge difference, gives us a huge boost. And then remember, Scranton Joe has some amount of credibility in the Midwest, a tiny, tiny bit. San Francisco Kamala, zero. She represents the exact left-wing coastal elites that call us the Rust Belt, that call us flyover country. We know that they look down on us. So absolutely, she hurts the Democrats big in Ohio.
Yeah, that has to be. It's not a talking point. Like that's the main thing. She is through and through, dyed in the wool, a San Francisco, California politician. That's very different than Ohio.
Oh, the last thing Ohio wants is anything to do with San Francisco liberal policies. And let's face it, she was the most liberal member of the United States Senate. She makes Joe Biden look moderate. She's an absolute extremist. She's out there with Bernie Sanders and AOC and the squad. I mean, absolutely the opposite of Ohio values. I was at a county fair yesterday where they have 1,500 campsites. Great community event. People like Kamala Harris would look at something like that and thumb their nose down at it and just don't understand what Ohio values are. So believe me, she's absolutely atrocious for the Democrats here in Ohio.
Yes, but who doesn't like a good old-fashioned fried Oreo at the county fair? Was it the Ohio State Fair, you said? Do they have like a Ohio Fair food that they're most particularly known for?
Well, no, this is the Ross County Fair. So there's 88 counties, 88 county fairs, and then there's the state fair, which I was at last week. It's a great tradition here in Ohio between 4-H and the livestock sales. It's a great tradition in Ohio. And people like Kamala Harris think that that we're just stupid, we're ignorant, that we don't know any better, which is why their policies are what they are. They think they know how to live our lives better than we do. They want to tell us to drive electric vehicles, can't have gas stoves. By the way, Kamala Harris wants to ban red meat. You say that to somebody in Ohio, and they actually think you're just insane.
Yeah, but she is a black woman, so she's no joke. How do you overcome that? Because that's the energizing factor. It's history. It's Obama 2.0, Bernie. Right? We're gonna get the excitement back. We're gonna get the hope and change back with her blackness and womanness.
Well, they've gone from hope and change to war and recession. That's what we're about to face. And it doesn't matter what her skin color is, what her race is. As you know, I'm Hispanic. I don't lean on that. It doesn't matter. It's about policies. What are you going to do to make the lives of Ohioans better? And they've made the lives of Ohioans worse. We've lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs while Sherrod Brown's been in Washington, D.C., 30 years, by the way, 20 years before that in state government. We see gas prices. We see groceries prices. When we go to a McDonald's, it's not a Happy Meal anymore. It's a pretty unhappy meal. A Big Mac's $5.49. That's all because of their policies. So we see through that. Race is what they use. It's the only thing they've got. Doesn't make a difference.
So we talked earlier about how Kamala was the 50-50 tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act. So she has a direct stake in that, right? She wasn't just the vice president when that was going on. So instead of criticizing her now, let's move to you. What would you do? What should the Senate do? Trump wins. Republicans have the Senate and the House. How do we fix inflation? The
first thing we have to do is unleash American energy. We need to be the energy-dominant country on Earth. Nobody on Earth should have more energy than America, to the point where we're a massive exporter because we have so much energy. So that's going to drive pricing down. We got to make certain that we increase productivity by having the 8 million people that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have paid to stay home that are able-bodied Americans. Let's get them into the workforce. Let's cut government spending dramatically. We probably have a government that's twice the size, twice as many people as we need to have. Let's make sure we have a regulatory environment that actually encourages growth. Right now, regulations are crushing small and medium-sized businesses, which is where most of the growth in our economy comes from. And then let's have a tax code that actually encourages growth for the long term. Those are the things that we can do that will massively drive down inflation. Listen, you don't have to take my word for it. We already did it once. President Trump did it in 2017, 18, 19. We had record low inflation, low interest rates. Americans could have a good life. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took that all away from us.
We're talking to our business editor earlier, and he talked about the economy was seeing massive improvements at the end of Trump's term. But the Democrats they were running on the economy so terrible and Trump's awful, so they had to do the opposite of what Trump was doing, and that was more spending. And that was the genesis of just more and more and more, although they've always been for more and more and more and more spending. What would Kamala do? So you just laid out very clearly three things. What do you think Kamala and the Democrats would do if they keep power instead?
Well, they'll do more of the same. They will absolutely federalize everything. They'll grow the government to the point where the private sector is almost basically shut out. We've seen this movie before. It's called Venezuela. I don't think we want Venezuela to be what America becomes. They will absolutely crush American energy. She said she's for banning fracking. I'm going to be in southeastern Ohio today. You talk about banning fracking there. That's basically half the economy in some of these places there. So that's a total disaster. She'll make it the internal combustion engine cars are almost unattainable. She wants us all driving in a scooter to work and public transportation. You'll see prices like you've never seen, because what they ultimately want is all of us, Mike, to be dependent on them. They want us all to be dependent on the federal government. Of course, the only people it actually hurts is the working class. The rich do very well when there's an environment like what Kamala Harris is proposing.
It says here on Breitbart article that Sherrod Brown, one of the senators from Ohio, is going to skip the Democratic convention and will not campaign with Kamala Harris. What do you know about that?
Well, he's hiding from her. It's the only thing that happens in politics. As a business guy my whole life, there's some things about politics that don't make any sense for me. This is a guy who gave Kamala Harris a full throttled endorsement. Says he loves her for so many reasons, but then won't campaign with her, won't go to the convention because, of course, he's trying to fool voters. He's trying to have it both ways. He supports everything about Kamala Harris, but then on the campaign trail pretends he's a moderate. Listen, we're going to expose him. This guy's right up there being a radical leftist. As you know, Mike, there's not a lot of normal Democrats that are really speaking up these days. Their party is totally and completely controlled by the furthest extreme in their party, people like Kamala Harris, Sherrod Brown. It's just about exposing them. You guys do a great job. Thank you. But as you know, the majority of the media is on the other side. They cover up for them. I mean, look at this is the greatest rebranding in the history of the world is Kamala Harris as a sane moderate.
Sherrod Brown won't campaign with Kamala. Will you campaign with Trump?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely proud to have President Trump's endorsement. I wear his endorsement with incredible honor. Of course, JD and I have already campaigned together many times. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they won't see the same kind of love from the person who supported them almost 100% of the time, because Sherrod Brown is trying to hide from that.
That's all you need to know about Sherrod Brown. That's literally it. You endorse Kamala and then refuse to be seen with her. Will not go to rallies with her. Will not go to the Democratic convention even. Doesn't even want to be seen at the convention where she is named. Like, clearly he knows that that's horrible for Ohio and that she's terrible for Ohio. So how has he voted these last couple of years with Joe Biden?
Virtually call it 100% of the time with Joe Biden. So he's up there for that radical left-wing agenda. That's what he actually believes. He covered up, and so did Kamala Harris, of course, the absolute decline of Joe Biden that's put this country, by the way, in grave danger. You're seeing what's going on in the Middle East right now. That's a result of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's awful policies, a weak commander-in-chief. They covered that up because it was good for them politically. They could get past this absolute left-wing agenda. But the minute that Joe Biden became a political liability, which of course happened in that hideous debate where we saw something that cannot be unseen, which is a man that is absolutely at his decline, then they of course threw him into the ditch. Sherrod Brown called for him finally after weeks to step aside, and then of course all of them have rallied around Kamala Harris like Sherrod Brown, but now of course he's hiding from her.
He said, I got my own schedule. She's got her own schedule. I'm pretty sure if she was a winner for him and a winner for Ohio, he would find a way to meld the schedules together, right? It's like, what are you going to do? She's going there, I'm going here. There's nothing we can do to meet up. It's like, yeah, right. I'll focus on my race. My strategy is different from hers. talking about the difference between abortion rights and on the minimum wage between Bernie Moreno and me, and how I fight every day for the dignity of work. That's interesting. What does that mean? What does he mean by the dignity of work?
Well, I have no idea because he's actually killed more manufacturing jobs than any other person in Ohio. He's the Green Reaper of manufacturing jobs here in Ohio. He's caused the closing of more coal plants and coal mines that have given a lot of people, that were giving lots of people good, high-paying jobs. But back to the schedule question, let me just say this. My schedule is my schedule. JD Vance has his schedule. President Trump has his schedule. If they called me in 2 minutes and said, hey, Bernie, we're going to be in Ohio this afternoon, my schedule would be his schedule. So
Yes.
just to be crystal clear.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, there's like the futility of it. Like, they don't match up. So, what are you going to do? I don't know. Change it and make it match up if you wanted to. Gosh, that's amazing. Tell me about JD. You mentioned him. What do we know about him? And it's a bummer though that he is the VP pick only because now DeWine's got to pick someone else, right?
No, the governor will pick somebody good. I'm confident about that. Listen, what your listeners should know, Mike, is what you already know. JD Vance is an amazing person. He's just a great human being. Part of what happens in our politics in this country is we have so many people that are that go into politics that are just not great people. Forget their policies; they're just not great human beings. Now, of course, there's lots of good people. JD's among the best. I mean, JD Vance is just a true great person. He's a great dad. He's a great husband. He's a great friend. Loyal to the end. Super smart. Super articulate. President Trump made a brilliant pick in JD Vance.
Give me an example of his loyalty or...
He's the kind of person, Mike, that if he says he's going to do something, like in my case, he said he was going to support me, and you never know what that really means. Nobody's done more for my campaign than JD Vance, whether it was endorsing me from the beginning, actually securing President Trump's endorsement, going out and doing fundraising for me, making calls whenever I ask him. If I reach out to him, he responds immediately and helps out. This is just a good guy. I went to his dad's funeral, and you see how he is there in that setting. He's just a good guy. He's the kind of person that you said, remember the old beer test? Would you like to have a beer with this politician? JD's the kind of guy you'd want to hang out with for the whole day. Kamala Harris, I don't think you'd even want to sit down for 5 seconds with her. She's so fake, so plastic. Yuck.